From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, we spoke to Herb Hand, Evan Cooper, Terrance Knighton, and Tim Harris Jr. What did we think? We'll tell you. James Williams on the boat for the Noles. They got an edge rusher in, and the SEC strikes as they pull away two of your freshmen that were in the transfer portal. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it. Vitamins, nutrients, energy, all in one little bottle that's not even 2 fluid ounces. Hop on vitaminenergy.com, add something to the cart, use it. See how much better life becomes. All because of Vitamin Energy. Noles behind this whole thing, helping us out. Give them a shout. vitaminenergy.com. Clinically proven to enhance the workouts, the immunity response, the focus, the mood, everything. vitaminenergy.com. Warchant.com, ultimate Seminole sports source. Come on home, everybody. If you are home, and I goofed it up the other day, Corey. So what we're doing is if you're currently a member of Warchant.com, we'll throw you a $20 gift card at Garnet and Gold while supplies last. And I don't know how the supply is looking right now, Corey, but we'll throw you a $20 gift card if you go ahead and upgrade to the Gold tier, which gives you an ad-free experience, as well as a 15% off discount at Garnet and Gold. I think it's 10% for standard members, 15% for the Gold members, and you also get access to the Renegade Room. That's where Corey's real musings lie. Not headlines, not his great columns, not Wake Up Warchant, the Renegade Room. So think about maybe upgrading. Treat yourself, everybody, this holiday season. Corey Clark, how are you, man?
Good, buddy. Good. How are you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah.
Great.
Hey,
now we got all that out of the way.
I mean, are you really doing all right? You want to talk about anything? Anything on your mind?
Oh, no. I'm actually doing fine, buddy. It's a holiday season. We're getting closer and closer. It's good times.
Caught the end of headlines, so you guys are done for the year, eh?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, because the next Tuesday is Christmas Eve, and then the Tuesday after that is New Year's Eve. So we'll be back on sometime in January for our first show. You know, we could always record an emergency episode if something big happens, but, you know.
Well, we're still here, and shout out. People legitimately thought that we were done for the week after the Monday show. It went so long, at the end of it, we're like, all right, that's it, we're done for the week. Joking. And people are like, oh, I thought you guys were really done this week. Thanks for releasing more content. It's like, well, there's a lot going on, so plenty to talk about. Before we hop over to that, though, Corey, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. This came in our inbox a few weeks ago, and I keep telling myself to bring it up on the show, and I'm too scatterbrained sometimes, but this is really it was a really touching kind of message from one of our listeners. Benjamin, I think, is out there hopefully listening to us still, Corey. He was introduced to the show in Florida State football by large by his father, who unfortunately succumbed to a battle with cancer. And, man, whenever we get around the holiday season, I just love it because I love going home and seeing all my friends and seeing their parents and just being around everybody. And, people say things like, I can't imagine what that's like. And the problem is, like, I'm grateful and I'm thankful that my parents are both still here with me. But sometimes my mind will slip and I'll think about that day that it's going to happen, man. It's just a really big bummer, to put it lightly and mildly. So I try not to think about that kind of stuff, Corey. I like to focus on football. So hopefully Benjamin's able to listen to the show here and there and maybe get his mind off things. I'm sure Pops is up there with Coach Bowden right now trying to figure out how to get this thing turned around so our Saturdays will be a little bit better and keep you in his thoughts, and we keep you in our thoughts, Benjamin. Thanks for listening, man. Shout out to you, buddy.
And hopefully he's up there and they can get a message down to Aslan that it's actually pronounced succumbed.
Okay.
That's the word we use there in that spot. Benjamin, I apologize for my co-host. But in all seriousness, I've lost a dad. I was in my 30s. I was not a teenager. It's awful. It's never easy. It gets easier the further you're away from it. But, yeah, man, we're thinking of you because the first holidays after it happens, it's not easy. So just keep your head down. It gets better, it gets easier, and then go live your life knowing he's around and he's a part of it.
Hell yeah. Amen, brother. All right, with that said, we spoke to 4 assistant coaches on the Florida State staff yesterday. Let's start with the offensive side of things, Corey. Herb Hand, impressive dude. Loquacious gentleman as well, too.
He sure is. Yeah.
But maybe it was our questions. We kind of asked him these really broad, macro level questions, and he went ahead and gave us long, detailed answers and responses to things. Again, bits and pieces of headlines puttering around town the other day, and I know you feel really good about at least where this offense is going to be because, and listen, they've got a road to hoe to get guys here on campus that are going to help out the cause on offense. But it just feels like, Gus and Herb, wherever they've been successful. They've been successful really quick, at least in terms of getting the offense is going. And I know it's crazy last year. They were 4-8 this past season, and they had a really good offense, and their defense statistically wasn't that bad.
Yeah, weird.
But it just seems like, the way he talks about, running the football, how important that is to them. And just, he's got that dude factor that I feel like offensive linemen will gravitate towards him. And he's been in the game a long time, so lots to feel good about.
Yeah, and there is a distinction. I feel really good that the offense will be better. I don't feel like the offense necessarily is just going to be really good because they're here, but I'm 100% convinced it's going to be worlds better. It's even if that just gets to average, that's worlds better because these two guys, everywhere they've been when they've worked together, they have had good offenses and they've run the ball every time. Every time. He's an impressive guy, and when he had a lot. I would encourage everyone to go watch that video. I kind of like just his outlook on life, like our outlook on the profession, because he doesn't like guys to say things to him like, now I can finally be developed. It's like, well, no, you were being coached before. I might be a fresh set of eyes that can help you or something, but because he points out it's a fair point, like. Offensive line coaches, man, as he called it, they're a brotherhood. Like that is not an easy. That's the position itself is the least fanfare of any position. It's the most selfless. It's a different kind of dude that plays offensive line because they never get to touch the ball or score touchdowns. But then also the guys coaching them are different types of dudes. He never mentioned Alex Atkins by name, but I feel like he was going out of his way to make sure that he was not going to speak ill of the current players on the roster or how they played last year because he felt like that would maybe be disrespectful to Alex Atkins and the players currently on the roster. That said, they were horrible last year. So he won't say it. I'll say it. They were horrible last year, and I'm just confident no matter who he's working with, right? That they'll be better. Like we did talk about that on headlines because somebody asked, one of the questions was, if you could spend the $4.5 million on one position group, what would it be? And their answer immediately was offensive line, and I'm like, man, if we're sparsing it out, I still think I might give more to the defensive line only because we know Herb Hand with decent players, and let's assume Lucas Simmons is a decent player. And Jalen Early, which he knew from his days at Texas. He apparently was the first coach to offer Jalen Early. Yep. Ends up being a decent player. And Rizzy. And Richie Leonard comes back. And he might have some clay, man. It's not a completely empty shed. Do you put clay in a shed?
Drawer cabinet. I don't know what people do with their arts and crafts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what you do with clay. Probably not in a shed. I don't know why I came with that. But so he.
What do you think about the workshop? A man's shed.
There you go. That's right. You go out there and you're out there for hours, and don't ask me questions. I'm out there in my shed. Don't worry about it. He's done more with less. Can we say that? Like, I can't imagine UCF in 2021 and 2022 had the type of star power, and I put that in quotes, but the rankings and prospects that Florida State currently has on the roster. I don't think he coached a bunch of 4 stars at UCF. And somehow they managed to finish 6th in the country in rushing. So I think he'll be – now, you want him to get better players, clearly. It's not like you don't want an influx of at least some offensive linemen. But I just trust and have confidence that you give this guy 14 scholarship linemen. He will find 5 that can open up holes and let the running game eat. He's done it for 20 years. But maybe Florida State is cursed. And they get guys that have a great track record, and they still can't make it work. I'm just saying this guy has been able to make it work everywhere he's been.
Yeah. What I kind of got from it, I felt like, we asked him the questions kind of about what you're looking for in the portal and how, tricky that is. Dude, to me, he sounds like this might be the end of the line for him when it comes to, I don't think he's very fond of the current climate of college football, but as long as he can probably get multi-year contracts that pay him $1 million or $2, why not keep doing this? But to me, he sounded like an old ball coach lamenting just how weird and wacky this all is, about how it used to be years of developing relationships. Now it's hours. It's a day or two on an official visit. And, I thought it was interesting when we had Michael on the show yesterday. He was talking about the offensive lineman from Arkansas. So, like, before he even brought his own, the center that we project from UCF, who actually is on campus, Caden Kittler. He was on campus on Tuesday. Like, he brought the kid, Addison Nichols, I think is his name. His name is. So he is from Georgia, went to Tennessee as a freshman, transferred to Arkansas this past year, and started every single game. And like, he brought him on campus first before Kittler came on there. So I was thinking, to your point about him maybe not recruiting 4 stars and being surrounded by them at UCF, it's like, well, he's bringing a guy that was elite and was a 4-star recruit as like one of the first visits as an offensive lineman. So it does seem like maybe he wants to kind of upgrade there. But then he laments, like, what do you really know? Because you're only hanging out with these kids for a little bit of time. And in terms of the development comment, Corey, I think that, to me, that seemed more like projecting here, obviously, speculating here. I think him and Sam Pittman have probably run in the same circles for a bit. So I think that's probably one of his guys. Yeah. So if somebody says something about, like, listen, I know where you've been, I know who you've been coached by, like, you're not going to get developed much better than Sam Pittman, and vice versa. Like, if you leave Herb Hand to go get, tutored by Sam Pittman, I don't think you're going to have a huge, ceiling to unlock. So that kind of, that's what stuck out to me. I feel like he laments this whole transfer portal sort of thing, but realizes you need to be in it. You need to be neck deep in it here. So that's going to be crucial to see who they pick out and who they actually get in the fold.
Yeah, and I don't want to be misinterpreted. I'm not saying you were, but when I say that he'll make it work, don't go get linemen. I'm not saying that. They absolutely need to bring it. They clearly want some guys from the portal because they keep hosting them, including some UCF guys. I'm just saying, and so you want to go get better. You want to go get the best players possible. I'm just saying I'm confident even if he doesn't get the first or second choice, even if he has to make do with what's on the roster, he will make do much better than the last staff made do. He and Malzahn will figure out a way, unlike Norvell and Atkins, to make it work. I just think I'm 100% convinced of that. I could be wrong. I don't know how it could be worse, though, so they will be better. And then, going to the other side of the ball, and we need to talk about the news of the day that it just happened as we started the show, that James Williams did indeed commit to Florida State from Nebraska. But I wanted to give a shout-out to Terrance Knighton real quick. It's just – I don't know, man. I know people don't care about this kind of stuff, but to me, as a guy that grew up with this program and grew up at Florida State and still has a reverence for its place in college football, for him to, before he even took a question, to give that shout-out to Odell. He didn't have to do that. What Odell has meant to the program, what he's meant to him, how I guess they've talked since he's been here and they have a relationship. I just think that's first class, man. To go in there, the shoes you're trying to fill, the shadow, and he even mentioned the shadow, and I think he called him a mountain of a man or a mountain of a.
It's on the Mount Rushmore, he said, of defensive line coaches.
So for him to do that before even taking a question, he was the only one that had an opening statement, and it was all about Odell. I just thought that was a nice touch, man. It probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but I think to a small sect of us, it does mean a lot, and it's a really smart and good and polite, wonderful thing to do. So good job, Knighton.
I mean, we're going to focus on the offensive coach before we went to the defensive coaches. But with the James Williams news, I guess got you all excited to talk about defense. So let's talk about defense then. Yeah, that was awesome, man. That was, and I don't even know if he wanted that to go on camera. Like, it felt like it was before we start. Yeah. And I hit record, so I was recording, and everybody else kind of started recording as well too. But yeah, it was a very nice touch. And it struck me as he's a very earnest young man, Terrance Knighton. Like, I thought he was going to be more of kind of a gruff,
You thought he was going to be Suge Knight because of what he tweets all the time.
Yeah, man. I thought that was going to be like Suge Jr. or whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, very, I don't want to say soft-spoken guy, but, just mild-mannered gentleman, I felt like. I thought he was going to come in there kind of guns a-blazing and throwing his weight around and letting us know just how, like, awesome he is or whatever. But for him to pay that kind of deference and reverence to Odell was awesome because, and it wasn't like a throwaway 5-second thing. Just like, hey, Odell's a great guy just trying to carry the legacy on here at D-Line U, and we'll see what, it was very, it was borderline touching, Corey. Like, I was like, man, look at this guy. And then he, talks about Florida State's the pinnacle of college football, which it is, I mean, right now we're not, but, Florida State is one of the brands, iconic brands, some might say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for him to kind of, let us know that he recognized that was a nice way to start things off. And yeah, James Williams, the defensive edge, who I think had 5 sacks this past season, but I think this is his first year playing big boy football, seven. 7 games, 7 sacks in 16 games in Nebraska. So he has played 2 years in Nebraska. But that was one of the targets, priorities they had. So good to see Florida State getting another priority on the boat here for this 25 class as we go into the 25 season. But anything else?
He's a big one. Yeah, I mean, he's a big one though. He played. I'm just looking at his PFF grades now. This is outrageous. Is this right? He played 12 games, but he only played 188 snaps according to PFF. But in those 188 snaps, he had 28 pressures, which has got to be one of the higher rates in the country. That's crazy. So, yeah, good for him to have 5 sacks. He hit the quarterback 11 times, had 12 hurries. He was second on the Nebraska team in pressures with 28, which is that's 10 more than Princewell, who went to I don't know where he went, and Jamari Butler, that's 6 more than him. And they played twice as many snaps as this guy. So this guy is a legit edge rusher. And so that's a very big pickup for them, especially after, well, look, I don't know if a loss is the right word, but Marvin Jones Jr. is moving on. Still not sure what's happening with Patrick Payton. But to have somebody on the edge that can play at this level and play like this, like that's a big prize. That's a really nice piece for the defense.
Yeah, if you have time, I suggest getting on, don't spend too much time on social media, but I think if you go on Twitter and if you search James Williams and Knighton, you'll see something from October, after one of the games in October, just like a 2-minute ballad to the greatness of Terrance Knighton, how much he means to James personally. So, like, between that and then what we know about Mike Norvell and his background and what James kind of said in that statement, you're like, man, this is an absolute slam dunk if there's ever been one for recruiting a guy in terms of like the whole fit and family thing when it comes to on the field and off the field. So good get, because Florida State needs difference makers on defense right now. So maybe they heard you on headlines, Corey, because, yeah, I mean, we don't know, as you said, Patrick Payton right now up in the air, Marvin Jones Jr. gone, Byron Turner Jr. Gone. We'll see about Aaron Hester. I don't know how Aaron Hester is going to work into the 3-3-5, but, that's not a proven option. This guy is productive, and he has not really scratched the surface of what he possibly can be. I think that's the exciting part, because I know a lot of Nebraska people are really high on him getting towards the end of the season. So, plus he's got the look, Corey. He's got the look that people like sometimes from their.
Well, and I just looked it up while you were talking. So when you go by like pass rush percentage, like what he did and his percentage of times rushing the passer, he was 4th in the country. Is
that good?
Yeah, it's pretty good. He was behind James Pierce at Tennessee.
He's really good, that dude.
Yeah, he was number 1, by the way, if you're wondering about him. Clev Lubin from Coastal Carolina.
Come on down, Clev.
Yeah, what are you doing? And then David Bailey, an edge from Stanford. Those are the only 3 players in the country that had a better pass rush percentage of getting close to the passer, disrupting the passer, than James Williams, who just signed with Florida State. So, that's a good get. It's a really good get. It's a nice benefit of bringing the Nebraska guys over. Is you've now gotten a couple of their rotation players and big pieces of why their defense was so good the last 2 years.
What's been really good for the last 18 years is the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
Amen, buddy. Amen.
CPTallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Daily lunch specials, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Don't forget, tomorrow night, bingo, 7 p.m., 4 rounds, $250 up for grabs in each round, cold hard cash. Go profit, everybody. Eat, be merry, play bingo, watch ball. Yeah, it's Thursday night. There'll be a football game on. Are we in bowl season yet? The playoff starts in a few days. My gosh.
Yeah, the Gators play on Friday against Tulane, and then last night after we recorded this, but before people are listening to it, there was West Virginia played Memphis in a bowl game. Yeah.
Right. Is Rich Rod? Did Rich Rod do it? Was he coaching this one, or did he look at
That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think he's coaching this one.
Rich Rod. That's another guy Herb Hand name drops. That's cool. Good guy.
He name dropped Rich Rod about his time in West Virginia, and then he also name dropped the fact that he coached at Texas, which is again pretty impressive. Then Saquon
Barkley.
Yeah.
Saquon.
Again,
I think call him Saquon.
Saquon,
maybe I'm saying it wrong this whole time.
But like, is it again that just that he's been doing it for 20, 25 years. He's been doing it at a pretty high level, and he knows what it looks like, man. Yeah. He just knows what capable Division I offensive lines look like. Let me put it to you this way.
Well, hey, can you hold the thought? Can I sign off the ad?
No. Bill wants this a part of the corner pocket. No, go ahead, sign off. Sorry, my bad.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachian Parkway.
That's for you, Bill. That's for you, dog. I just want to make it as long as possible. You get this kind of conversation at Corner Pocket, folks. I'm there half the time. We can talk about the defense and Herb Hand on the offensive line. What I was going to say is, like, is there any way in your mind, and I'm not trying to kick dirt on somebody's grave. Alex Atkins, number one, got paid a lot of money, so who cares if I kick dirt on his grave? But do you think there's any way if Herb Hand was the offensive line coach going into 2024, not only would it have looked that bad, but that Mike Norvell would have been so misinformed about how good it was going to be? Like, do you think maybe Herb Hand, with all this experience, if it was going to be this awful, might have taken him aside and been like, hey, man, we're going to struggle. We're not going to be as good as you keep telling all these people. That dude is not an All-American. These guys have played a lot of football, but they are deteriorating or they're not very good. We might struggle to run the ball. Like, I just think he would have had does that make sense? Like, I think he would have had a better understanding of what was about to happen. And frankly, because he has that kind of understanding, he wouldn't allow something like that to happen, to get that bad, where it was catatonic. It was the worst. It was just a non-existent offensive line.
I don't disagree fully, but I just who would not have felt good about this offensive line? They didn't look better. I'm telling you, they did not look inept and unable to block anybody or carry out any assignment. Man, I remember because
you're talking about in the August, like when we were watching them.
Keandre Jones looked like he was about to peak and hit some sort of 6-year senior mega level up moment. Listen, Richie Leonard was a guy that everybody was high on. Maurice,
and he actually wasn't bad. I mean, I thought out of the guys, he was probably the best lineman they had, but what did that matter?
Yeah, for better or worse, like you knew what you had with Maurice and you felt okay with it. At least a guy that was like a stabilizing force in terms of keeping guys kind of accountable and being a good leader. Obviously, everything they've said about Darius Washington, Jeremiah Byers played a whole bunch of football. Did not look awesome in 23, but all right, one more year to get a little bit better. I mean, the fact that none of them got better, that's the thing I think Herb Hand would. I doubt Herb Hand has ever really gone from one season to the next having 3/5, 4/5 of his starting offensive line, and they take a seismic step back. So yeah, that's the part of it that probably you feel good about having with Herb Hand. But what I feel better about than anything, of course, is the fact that he is intent on getting guys here on campus from the transfer portal, because I do think we can sit here and talk about guys like maybe Otto, maybe Jalen Early, maybe Lucas Simmons. Man, they can't be in the maybe business on the offensive and defensive line. There can't be the maybe business. They need to go after guys who have produced, and it's a good start when you go after a guy like James Williams that you've coached in Nebraska on the defensive side of things. It's a good start when you got the two kids from UCF that you've coached the last 2 years. Are two of the first three guys that visited you. So, yeah, I think Herb Hand feels the gravity of the matter, knows what works, what won't, and I'm sure he's looked at the film and been like, I don't know if I can fix that. That's 13 games of blah.
But that was the point, is like, how would you know if Lucas Simmons can play? Like, how would he know personally? There's no tape to look at.
Well, the practice
but
stuff
you know what
gives
I mean?
you an idea of a guy that he can't do his steps right. Like, he's going back. He's having to do this 3 times.
Or maybe he was doing just fine, and maybe there's a lot of stuff to work with there, and he was not developed.
Or that.
There's that too, or Otto and Early. I mean, he liked Early when he was in high school. So, again, I think it's too early to say, no pun intended, some of these guys are just can't play. You do want to get a couple of starters out of the portal, absolutely. I don't think you can go get 5. That are absolute. Let me put it this way: that are absolutely better than what you have currently on the roster. That if they get developed, and the guy can scheme it the right way, that maybe they're as good as what you'd have to overpay in the portal for. That just maybe. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't think you're going to go get 5 starting offensive linemen out of the portal. I think you get 2 or 3, and then you just Leonard, Otto, Early, Rizzy. I don't, who else is out there, man? Who else is
Simmons?
on the team? Simmons, yeah. There's guys on
Estes.
the roster. God, is Estes in the portal? I couldn't remember.
Oh, no, I thought who's in the portal who's available on this roster.
Who's available,
Oh.
yeah. But there are guys. He's going to give that guy 13, 14 scholarship linemen, and then he's going to find 5 that will not look like straight-up dumpster fires. But, yes, go get him. He needs to go get himself a couple. And I think the UCF kids, he knows what they can do. And I thought it was funny when he was talking about when you're with a guy for so long, like he's been at UCF for 4 years, so he's coached these guys, you notice their warts. You almost focus too much on their warts because you know what they can't do. And then as he talked about looking at the portal and film, and I'm sure he was talking about the guys on the Florida State team too, looking at their film, it's like, okay, well, a lot of people have warts. That's not just my guy. Like maybe I'm not focusing enough on the things they do well. So I think that's maybe why a couple of those UCF guys that maybe he thought he wouldn't want to bring them along are now in the portal and maybe coming to. And I don't know. He might have wanted them all along, but I thought that was telling. That because why would he look at film of any other lineman except the ones on his team? But when you're in his job now and you've got to not only look at the guys on your new team and what they can do, but then also the portal guys, you're like, well, golly, that guy that I thought that I gave hell to for the last 4 months is actually pretty good by comparison. Yeah,
I didn't even think about
good.
that. Yeah, no.
So I thought that was telling. I liked that he talked about he wants guys that love football. Knighton said something similar. And then Aslan, something that I think is very important that people want to hear about. And also, again, go watch this interview too. The new wide receivers coach, Tony Harris. Tim Harris, sorry, not Tony. There's a lot of names I'm trying to get used to, folks. I called
Evan Cooper Evan Turner on yesterday's show.
Oh, nice. Okay, perfect. Yeah,
it's terrible.
It's tough.
I got it all figured out now, though. I promise.
I'm not sure I do, but hopefully I'll have it all figured out by August. He talked about how those receivers. He's like, we're going to run the ball, so they have to be able to block, and they have to be able to play without the ball in their hands. And I feel like a lot of Florida State fans are like, yep, absolutely, because you guys watch games all year, all over the country, where wide receiver screens would at least go for 12 yards, 14 yards, or 6 yards. Every time they called a wide receiver screen at Florida State University in 2024, it went for no yards or negative yards. Literally almost every time, because they would not block. Either they could not block, and you're asking Ja'Kai Douglas to try to block a strong safety, or they would not block. And it sounds like, and I think it's probably coming from the top down, but it sounds like one of the edicts is if you're going to get on the field, you better bust your butt when it comes to doing what you have to do without the ball. Then you get the ball. But before you get the ball, you have to prove that you've earned the right to have the ball thrown to you by blocking. And, we know how it works, man. Good blocking receivers turn 12-yard runs or 15-yard runs into 60-yard runs. I mean, one of the most famous passes in Florida State history was a screen pass to Warwick Dunn, that if Vanover doesn't get the block, that's a 25-yard run. Well, clip, block, however you want to view it. If he doesn't make that play, it's a 25-yard play instead of a 75-yard game-clinching, essentially national championship game-clinching touchdown. Blocking is important. On the outside especially is very important, and I like that seems to be a talking point for this new guy. But that was like one of the first things he mentioned.
Also very self-aware. That's why I like myself, Corey. I think I'm self-aware, so that's why I like myself. I like the fact that Tim Harris also, when I asked him just about the fact, I'm sure maybe more so now the guys are going to go after when you're recruiting at UCF when they're in the AAC and then getting into the Big 12. I don't know how many, elite guys they were in living rooms with, but I'm sure at least one or two of them or their uncle or their mom was like, Coach Gus is awesome and all, but Coach Gus doesn't throw the ball a lot. I liked his answer to that. And he's like, yeah, man, like we get that. He's like, I get it. I understand that people have that perception. He's like, however, running the football makes your life easier. That's going to create a lot of one-on-one opportunities. And you, as you said, Corey, like go make a play. Your job as a receiver is like to make that catch, make one guy miss, and then make it into a chunk play that breaks open a football game. So I think, to me, as, maybe leery as I would be if I was like a dad that had a son that was a wide receiver, I'd be like, man, Gus has been a head coach for like 9 years, and I think he's only had an 1,000-yard receiver twice. But when you explain that to me, when you simplify it to the matter of like, yeah, listen, we are going to run the football. It is going to create all sorts of opportunities for you on the outside. And we've got this Castellanos kid that's going to be running around crazy. So that's going to also create the opportunity for big plays because there's going to be broken plays where, it's going to be backyard football and, shine in that moment. That's a piece of cake as a wide receiver. That's a nightmare for defensive back. The fact that they seem to be ready to take that sort of reputation head on, big fan of that.
Yeah, and I think, we have a guy that works for Warchant some of the time whose son, I think, is coming on a visit this weekend. And as a wide receiver, I know he was listed as a tight end, but he was basically a wide receiver at USC. He's a wide receiver here. And part of the selling point to someone like that is you are going to get a ton of one-on-one opportunities. As long as we can run the ball, like they want to run the ball, the selling point is if we're going to run the ball, and that's going to bring safeties down, that's going to put more people in the box, and that's going to leave you with a lot of deep shot opportunities down the field in one-on-one. And why wouldn't a receiver want to come to that? Now, you want to be the guy. You don't want to be the fourth guy because the fourth guy is probably never going to play. But the top three guys will play, and if they can run the ball, it does set up some big shots down the field. And I thought it was he brought up the fact that, yeah, he's heard that. And then he's like last year or 2 years ago at UCF, they had 1 year where they had the number one receiver in the Big 12, and they had the number 6 receiver in the Big 12. And that's true. I'm looking at it right now. They had Javon Baker had 52 for 1139, so that's a 22-yard average with 7 touchdowns. And then his teammate, Kobe Hudson, had 44 for 900, so a 20.4-yard average and 8 touchdowns. Well, their top 2 receivers then, you're talking about 96 for over 2,000 yards and 18 touchdowns. That'll play. I think most receivers would be like, yeah, I'll sign up for that. So it can lend itself, because they run the ball so well traditionally, it lends itself to making big plays down the field. And as Gus said in his press conference, when they have a good offense, when they're doing well, they're always one of the leaders in the country in yards per catch. And, I think that would be very appealing to someone like Deuce Robinson or another guy in the portal or someone like, I don't know, man, Elijah Moore, whoever's still on campus. Like, I think those guys should be salivating at that. Like, if you think you're good enough, Hakeem Williams, if you think you're good enough and you're going to be a starter in this offense because you're big and can block guys on the outside, buddy, you're going to have real chances to make plays down the field, unlike this past year.
I wonder if we're ever going to get Concepcion on campus. Keep seeing these visiting places. I'm not seeing Florida State as a – but, hey, whatever. Get the Omega Blake kid that's been on campus. That kid's a playmaker.
Yeah, didn't he average like 22 yards a catch or something?
Yeah, and he's got 8 touchdowns on like 35 catches or something crazy like that.
I like that ratio.
I do too.
I like that ratio. Yeah, look, man, if they get another portal kid or two, if they get a couple wide receivers in the portal, you have to imagine some of the younger guys might portal out. That's life in 2024. But get you some guys that can go make plays. Deuce Robinson, can go make plays. That kid Omega, can go make plays. Concepcion, of course, he's a different kind of guy. He's not one of those 6'3" guys out wide, but he is an absolute playmaker. So yeah, let's hope they can, and they will. They're going to land a couple guys. They're not standing pat at wide receiver. They're going to get a couple.
We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Shake it, take it, sip the juice. Evan Turner. No, Aslan. Evan Cooper.
You got it right. There you
Jeez, unbelievable. What did he? Was a basketball player in Indiana? Evan Turner.
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
He was the number 2 pick in the draft. He actually had a triple-double against Florida State in the Big Ten ACC Challenge back in the day.
Only things Corey Clark keeps
I know.
hard drive space in his brain for. But Evan Cooper, after a year hiatus, returns to the sidelines. You know, the big premium on him, almost kind of circling back to what Herb Hand talks about, where he's like, you know, players want to be developed, and, you know, I know where you were, I know where you were developed. You know, Cooper's a guy that was Matt Rule for life. I mean, they might have been at Temple together. I know they're at Baylor together. He brings him to Nebraska. He brings him to Carolina when he went to the NFL. Takes him to Nebraska with him. So for him to leave the nest, that's a huge statement in of itself. I feel like, you know, we heard from Terrance Knighton just how like brilliant he thinks Tony White is. So I feel like Tony White he's obviously he's the brainchild of this defense. He is the goods. Like, he is the guy that everyone on that staff is going to be leaning on defensively. So you feel really good about that because he's had a track record of success. And they believe in him so much. Feel like, I don't know, Cooper's niche to me feels like recruiter. I'm not trying to downplay his X and O's, sort of what he's going to bring to the table on that. But for me, although, listen, I know he's been under Matt Rule, he's at the NFL core, but to me, like, hearing the way he talks about and approaches the game, I feel like he's very much more relationship-based and getting guys on campus and then making them feel comfortable and being able to explain things, trickle it down, funnel information down from Tony White to them so that they're able to absorb it and then go out and play as fast as they possibly can. Because we didn't get a lot of specifics on like what the safeties do, what he looks for in a player. So I think it's just like, yeah, man, I've got a role to fill on a staff, and I'll do that really well. And that's being a really good relationship guy, getting recruits on campus, and then being able to level with them when they get here so that they are able to feel comfortable.
Yeah, he's definitely got charisma. He's charismatic for sure. I would say, I don't know how often he's been interviewed as an assistant coach, and he's been coaching for a while, and he's from South Florida, so he's got ties. He was roommates with Knighton actually in college, right?
Yeah,
weren't they roommate? And he's and I think he knew. Does he know Surtain? He had run in the circles with Surtain.
I would think so.
But
and his cousin, right?
Oh, Shevin Smith. For all you old-time Florida State heads, he was Shevin Smith was a former walk-on in the '93 class and ended up being a starting safety. Had a pick 6 against Miami down in the Orange Bowl in '96. Was like an all ACC type player. He was very good. He ended up being drafted by the Bucks, I think. By the way, that '93 class, which featured, it's one of the best recruiting classes in college football history. 2 of the walk-ons that year were Wadsworth and Shevin Smith. So you had 2 draft picks that were walk-ons in that class. That's how good that class was. But anyway, I think when you're asked and you're not used to doing media, I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt because he was asked. Brendan asked him about, like, what is the role of the safety in your defense? And he's like, I'm not going to get into the technicalities, or I'm not too I'm not too worried about the specific. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it. But if you were listening closely for, like, actual information, you'd be like, all right, man, has he ever coached safeties before? Like, what's he talking about? Like, he didn't give an answer at all. I think sometimes, especially when you're not used to this, you don't know what you're supposed to say and not say when it comes to defensive scheme, personnel, what you're looking for. He's not experienced talking to the media about stuff like that. So the only pushback being, like, I don't think that means he doesn't know what he's doing.
I wasn't saying that.
I know.
I wasn't implying that at all.
But when you say that a guy's only here to be a recruiter,
and that's just
not that you said that. Yeah, probably. But I don't want people to get the wrong idea that they just brought this guy in that doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm not saying you said that. I'm saying somebody could hear that and think that. I'm just saying in a lot of the people listening to our show probably watched the press conference. I would say that he's probably not used to, like, and knowing what kind of detail he's allowed to give about something like this. He's been working for Mike Norvell for 6 days. I am genuinely fascinated how many of these coaches on the current staff, the new guys and the staff and on the coaching staff, know that we're going to be out at practice. Do they have any idea? Does Malzahn even know yet? Like, has that even been discussed? Like, it's very funny to think about that because, college football, man, it's not a thing. People don't watch practice, so I wonder if they understand that. Hopefully, anyway, nothing changes and we'll be out of practice. But, yeah, I thought he was charismatic, to get back to your point.
Well, just also the reason I referenced the Matt Rule part of it, too, I don't think Matt Rule would have anybody on his staff that's not doesn't have football acumen.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and and honestly, the way that Terrance Knighton talked about Tony White, he called him an evil genius multiple times. It said that his brain goes 100 miles an hour, but he says he knows all this crazy stuff, but simplifies it really well. Well, somebody like that, a football mind like Tony White, wouldn't have someone on their staff that didn't know what they're doing. I do think it's interesting. I don't know how often college football teams have safety coaches and cornerback coaches. But I don't mind it.
No. Well, it's crazy because Knighton's just the defensive line coach. There's not an ends coach.
There's not an ends coach, at least not yet. There's not an ends coach. And but, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because, I mean, look, Patrick Surtain knows a lot about playing DB in particular, but he's a corner. He was a world-class cornerback. So he never really played safety. So it makes sense to have a guy that played safety, or a safeties coach and a cornerbacks coach, and Surtain can work with his guys, and maybe somebody that knows the position a little better can work with the safeties. I think that, to me, that makes perfect sense. It's like running backs and receivers having different coaches. They're different positions. At that point, each offensive line position should have a different coach.
Well,
why not,
Atkins?
Aslan?
Well, Fertitta would work with the centers and the guards.
Yeah,
mostly, and then Atkins would work with the tackles. So, I mean, there is some of that aspect, at least on the defensive line, like a tackle and an edge and an end have completely different responsibilities and skill sets. So it would make sense to have two different guys, but I'll trust Tony White's judgment and what he's got there. And
by the way, Evan Turner, I looked it up.
Evan Cooper,
Evan Turner, yeah, right, for Ohio State. He had 25 points and 13 rebounds, but only 6 assists in that game. Okay. So he did not have a triple-double. He played all 40 minutes, though, and the Buckeyes won 77-64. So I was wrong. He did not have a triple-double, but he did win the game.
Last bit on the coach is what I did think was interesting when you mentioned him, Knighton, referencing Tony White as an evil genius, and then I asked him, like, is there really that big of a difference between 4-2-5 and a 3-3-5? Because you still have the same amount of guys in the box, if you will, for lack of a better term. And he mentioned that, like, the versatility they have and the need to not substitute. And my mind instantly went to the Miami game when Norvell shot lasers at Adam Fuller after, what was it, one of the third downs where they had to stop, but they couldn't get off the field in time. So Miami got like a gimme layup first down. Yeah. I think it happened in another game as well. And it was like, you could tell Mike was over having to run guys on and off the field. And I'm all here for it, man. Keep guys fresh to a certain degree, but I don't know if I need 4 or 5 different sub packages on my defense.
You want your best players playing the most.
And let's get them, let's get their, endurance and their conditioning up to par. We have a staff that's their job and their title is strength and conditioning. Get them in the right condition so they don't need to be running off the field every 5 snaps or whatever.
And that should go for the offensive line in particular because Florida State was obviously one of the slowest teams in the country this year, not speed-wise. Well, who would know? But in actual,
ripping off plays.
Yeah, they were one of the slowest in the country. Well, Gus Malzahn wants to go fast. Herb Hand wants to go fast. So those linemen have to be in really good shape.
I really wish I would have asked Herb Hand. I think he would have given us a look that would have said a million words. It would be like, Coach, what are your thoughts on line changes in hockey when it comes to offensive linemen and pulling guys out mid-drive, mid-quarter? I think he would have given I think he would have raised an eyebrow at the most diplomatic response. Okay. I think he might have been a little bit.
But I liked him. I liked the way he communicated.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I liked Alex and I liked Adam too. But I all these guys that we talked to, again, I would encourage everybody to go to watch the press conferences on our site on YouTube. But engaging, informative. I thought insightful in certain respects. Overall, I think you get a pretty good sense that these guys. I think the brain trust has gone up on the Florida State coaching staff. We talked about this on headlines too. Like, I think there are more people in the room now that will push back if Norvell says something dumb or wants to do something dumb. Or, that probably doesn't happen that often. Or if they have just problems with the way practice is being run, they will have they will make their differences known, their complaints known, and I think Norvell will respect what they're saying and take it to heart. And I'm not saying that maybe he wouldn't have with these other guys, but as I pointed out when all this was going down a few weeks ago, Adam Fuller, Alex Atkins, some of these guys kind of owed their careers to Mike Norvell. They weren't yes men necessarily, but they weren't going to push back too much. Tony White is Tony White, man. Like, he was just at Nebraska with one of the best defenses in the country. Gus Malzahn's hired Mike Norvell. So trust me, there will be some devils on his shoulder telling him, no, this isn't how we should do it. There will be some egos clashing probably, but I also think that's a good thing. It can be a destructive thing, but but it can also be a really good thing. And I think we're hoping that it's a really good thing that you have guys with egos, but guys that have egos for a reason with real track records that I think Norvell will respect and take their input to heart.
We're up against it. We got to talk hoops here in a sec, but some comings and goings. Obviously, we talked about James Williams coming in, edge rusher in Nebraska. Check out warchant.com for more insight in that. But the departures, we knew, obviously, of Destyn Hill and Luke Kromenhoek going in the portal. They've found homes, and they've found homes in the SEC. And we pondered, where could these kids possibly go?
Hey, now.
Destyn Hill.
Come on. Slow down with the second guy. First guy, absolutely.
Okay.
LSU is a destination spot, so good for Destyn Hill.
Yeah, Destyn Hill's going home. I think people did not appreciate some quotes he gave to another network on his way out. And then Luke Kromenhoek, apparently, I don't think he went anywhere else other than Mississippi State, and Mississippi State is now his home. So there you go.
That's kind of the SEC. Let's not act like he's eating good now, like he's in the penthouse because he's in Starkville. That is the bottom rung of the SEC. He did not. That is not even a lateral move. But just saying, like, I hope he has a good career. That's fine. I'm not wishing ill will.
Not the pinnacle of college football is what you're saying.
Correct. So they're not every SEC program is the exact same. Mississippi State had as bad a season as Florida State this past year. So hopefully it works out for him. I know there's probably not great feelings for Florida State fans for when the money came out, and then also his dad talking to The Athletic. But yeah, let's hope it works out. That was the one where I was like, he didn't do enough for someone like Georgia, Ohio State, or Oregon to be like, yeah, come on, you can play for us. Mississippi State is a good landing spot for him. No pressure. Yeah. I'm sure he has a chance to win the job, but it's not. He's not a guaranteed starter there. It's also a good offense for quarterbacks.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Lebby is. But yeah, that was my fear would be if he were to have the patience to go to an Oregon or a Texas to be like, all right, yeah, I will sit a year and I'll wait behind whoever you guys have tabbed to be the guy in 25, and then 26 is all me. And that's like, well, that could be scary. But Mississippi State, it seems like he's pushing to start ASAP. And yeah, Blake Shapen was at Baylor a few years back, and he transferred in. He was the starter. He got hurt. True freshman Michael Van Buren took over for him. He's now at LSU. He entered the portal. So it's, you're going up against a guy that I think is on his 5th year of playing college football, maybe his 6th year, Blake Shapen, but he's constantly hurt. So, but you have to, that's an easier hurdle to overcome than Jaden Rashada or whoever Oregon's got.
Arch Manning.
Yeah.
I think Oregon might have the kid that was like the number 1 quarterback in the country, or maybe he's back in the portal again.
Dante Moore.
He was at USC.
Yeah. Well, no, Dante Moore was at UCLA.
Oh, that's right.
Oregon. Yeah. So, so this is a quote from Destyn Hill that irked several, and telling this to Sam Spiegelman. It's a big support system, a bigger opportunity to get better with more resources than the main thing. It's all about getting better and getting one step closer to the NFL. I'm going to wide receiver U.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's not. I don't. It's fine. Look, man, I assume LSU does have more resources because they're
judging by everybody they're pulling in the portal, it sounds like they do. Yeah, they've got like 5 guys and just constantly pulling dudes.
And I would imagine that they were probably offering him more money. I don't think that's the only reason he would go. It's also back home. They do produce wide receiver talent, elite wide receiver talent, and have been for years. All that being said, I think he probably got a little bit more money. So I don't know what he means by resources. They also just have more money in general. They're a top-tier SEC program. So this is what you're recruiting against.
What possibly could have LSU wanted him? I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought there, Corey, but I'm not dogging Destyn Hill at all, but I just, if Florida State stuck by him all that time, you could have came in at the last minute when everything was settled in and be like, hey, do you want to stay at home and come to LSU? Maybe they did. Maybe it was like, no, I'm going to stick with Florida State. They were loyal to me this whole time. But I just wonder what LSU could have possibly seen out of Destyn coming off an injury, too, to think, all right, we're going to overextend ourselves to get this kid. Unless they're going by the legend of what he was at Edna Carr and like, all right, if he's good, if he's right, he could be something really special. But
guess
is that worth throwing six figures at?
But I don't know that. I don't even know what they threw at him. I literally couldn't harbor a guess for what you throw at a guy that's
Hazard, a guess?
Hazard. Golly, man. It's fine. That's just what I say, man.
That's for succumbing to
that's right. Hey, but I've made the harbor mistake 30 times. It's never getting better. But I would have no idea what somebody like Destyn Hill would fetch on the open market because he last time he really contributed in a game was in high school, and that was 4 years ago. I think it was before COVID. So it's been a long time coming. I just think maybe it's a change of scenery. The guy that recruited him isn't here anymore. It is home. So he might have given them a hometown discount. He might have been told he wasn't wanted here. I don't think that's true, but we have no idea what was going on in the background. He also might have looked at, as we were just talking about, Gus Malzahn's offenses. And, okay, what are the chances that I'm going to have 40 catches next year? Even if I'm fully healthy. I might be at 21 catch.
You talked about going to the NFL. There's not a lot of, Gus Malzahn wide receivers in the league.
Yeah, so all of that makes sense. It's fine. You'd have liked him to stay as we talked, but you're right. There's nothing he's got on film in a game that makes him, I think, right now, you'd be like an LSU coach, go, we got to get that guy. I don't think he was their top priority by any stretch. I think they were like, oh, this would be a nice addition to what we're bringing in the portal, but I don't think Destyn Hill was a top priority. But we'll see. In the fall, he might be one of the best receivers on their team, and that would be a cool story for him with everything that's happened in the last 5 years of his life for him to do that. And I guess he would show them, how he looked in the spring because he was good in the spring. And they do get to keep their clips of their spring practices, so that's how I'm sure he got recruited. And because what else would he show them? The 4 catches he had in 2023, and one of those was on a bad ankle. Like he wasn't even healthy in 23. So so it's but also he is a guy. So far, out of all the people they've lost in the portal that have entered the portal, he's the one guy that you it stings a little because of what he might be. All the other ones, I don't know, man. I don't know if any, even including Kromenhoff.
I was about to say, how it doesn't apply to Luke in this instance.
I don't think so. No, because of the offense that's being brought in. And I'm 100% convinced as of this moment in December of 2024 that Castellanos running a Gus Malzahn offense is going to produce more yards and points than Luke Kromenhoff would have in 2025. So, no, that doesn't stink. But Destyn Hill would have been a nice piece. I think. I just think he's when I watched him, I was always impressed when he was going full speed and was healthy. Okay, yeah, that's a guy that can get open a lot and has elite speed, elite quickness. He just never got to show it here. So maybe he'll get to show it in the big bad SEC. Maybe he and Kromenhoff will lock horns in a big SEC West game. Well, they don't have divisions anymore. So whatever. I'm done talking. Good luck to all the portal kids.
All right, on the way out, hoops. Another win for the Noles. 9-3 on the season after they drop Winthrop like a bad habit. 82-64 the win. Malik Ewan, Jameer Watkins pacing the Noles. Ewan, 21 points, 15 boards. Strong. Jameer, game high, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. 2 other guys in double digits for the Noles. Taylor Bowen had his first career double-double with 13 and 12, and Chandler Jackson had 14 points. It was pretty much the starters for Florida State produced, which I'm fine with, but I know it's a whole, 18 strong, 13 strong, whatever the motto for Leonard's been for a long time. And it's worked. But on Tuesday night, it was the starters getting it done for the Noles. Winthrop, one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the nation. They were held just 1 rebound under their average of like 15, which is top 10 in the nation. But Florida State absolutely waxed them on the defensive side of things. 49 total rebounds for Florida State, 33 on the defensive end. Again, 82-64 win for Florida State. They are now 9-3 on the season. And that's a wrap for non-conference basketball for your Noles. Conference slate starts on Saturday against Louisville, 2 p.m. So come on out to the Tucker Center and support your Noles. Some other news before we leave you here. Gunnar Hansen, Vanderbilt, offensive lineman, tackle, commits to the Noles on Tuesday evening. Shout out Gunnar. He's been at Vanderbilt. Jacksonville. I'll be in Jacksonville in another day or so. He's been at Vanderbilt the last 3 seasons, graded out at 56.2, which, again, PFF, for whatever it's worth, you start off at 60 and then they start docking you points. So in his 3 seasons out there in Vanderbilt, it looks like he started all 3 seasons out there. He's been splitting time at left and right tackle. Never graded above 56.2. But hey, Herb Hand likes him, so we should all like him. 6'5", 330. And again, for whatever it's worth on PFF, they graded him at 60.9 against Alabama. And we know what they did to Alabama, especially running the ball. And his run grade, not all that impressive against Alabama. Again, hey, it's PFF. But yeah, 3 seasons. He's even started some games at guard. He did, at least in his first season, his freshman year at Vanderbilt. So he is a senior. He's a 4th-year guy. Good get for the Noles at tackle. We'll see how things go on the interior as Caden Kittler is on campus. We'll see if they can close a deal with him. Tight end, Terrance Carter, who appeared to be I guess maybe the second option behind Biscuit since they got Biscuit first. He had been at Louisiana. He went ahead and canceled his visit. That was slated for later this week. Best of luck to the young man. Also at tight end, the young man out of Texas A&M, Jaden Platt, scheduled to visit later today. He will not be doing that. He committed to Arkansas. And Sean Murphy, good night, Sweet Prince. Alabama transfer to Florida State this past season, has gone ahead and I don't think he's officially in the portal, but his agents have retweeted every network, every entity that has reported that he plans on entering the transfer portal. So Sean Murphy, linebacker, entering the portal. Randy Pittman now probably the sole focus of the tight end search for Florida State, you would think. He wanted to come to Florida State too, I think. Then he went to UCF. But guess who's here now? The guy from UCF. All right, so that's it for recruiting, at least for right now, this second. We'll see how Omega Blake, what he says as he checks. I think he said something about he keeps it real, he keeps it honest with you. I hope he's going to still be on campus today. But usually when you interview the guy, that's them on their way out being like, yeah, I'm gone, on to my next place. So we'll see how it goes. Receiver, tight end. I mean, they need everything, right? All right, so that's a wrap for us. One more show this week, possibly. We'll see how it goes scheduling-wise. Again, I'll be leaving town, so things get tricky. But, hey, you don't care about my personal life. You're here for the Noles, everybody. So stay connected to warchant.com. It's the ultimate Seminoles sports source. Subscribe to the podcast. That way, you don't have to worry about whether or not we're going to do a show. It'll be there waiting for you. Really convenient. It's totally free, too. Hit the thumbs up on the way out if you're listening to YouTube. That would be great. Stay connected to warchant.com. Again, everything over on the premium recruiting board. It's happening fast and furious. Michael Langston, Matt Lacer, they got you covered. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock coming up for Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant. Presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Sip the juice.